Welcome on the Kaiji no Kami here with
Krolika Kang.
Advent Nebula.
and we are here with
Greggo, hi.
So how do you like Colorado?
Love it. Wish I could get here more than once a year. But yeah, I always enjoy getting really west of the Mississippi River, really. So anytime I get out here, it's good.
And you do a bunch of game shows here.
I do.
Yeah, I guess you have a lot of fun with those.
Oh yeah, yeah. A lot of the main thing I enjoy is just having fun with the fans in ways that they aren't accustomed to at conventions. You know, most people go to the cons, they see the voice actors, they go to the vendor room, this and that, play video games. But I like to give them an experience that they're not used to doing at conventions with the game shows and such. So it's a fun way to interact, especially when like some of the other guests are involved, like the one we're doing later on today here. So.
I really like the fact that you do approach everyone with an interactive experience where they can participate, be able to connect with strangers that they never thought about, especially when it comes to Pokemon, which everyone knows is so popular. And then you're starting a new one. You are starting here, Scrabble.
Yep, it's debuting. I want to thank Home Game Entertainment. They provided the software for it. It's one of my all-time favorite classic game shows, and this one's kind of a love letter to the folks who are more into game shows than into anime and fandom and such. So occasionally I like to do that because the majority of my fans online don't really watch anime. They're mainly into the game show aspect of things. So,
who's your favorite game show host?
Well, the late great Dick Clark and
yes.
the late great Bill Cullen. So
yes.
I'm fans of dead people.
Well, Newburn is one of my favorites from Match Game.
Reggie Newburn, yeah.
Yes, I love what you do because I'm a huge game show fan.
Oh yeah.
Especially the classics because I love the presentation, I love the comedy that comes with it, the group interactions, just the fun everyone has. And I see that in all of your game shows, that you really bring that classic feel to it. And so I think it's important because in a modern age, you don't see that very often. So you give a rapport that just makes everyone just have the same amount of fun you do.
Well, and that's the whole point. I mean, the kids have got to have fun at these things, and if they're not provided with good interactive entertainment, sometimes they make their own interactive entertainment, and not necessarily to the benefit of the convention when that happens. So, but yeah, you mentioned Match Game. Of course, I used to do that every year before when I was doing the Denver convention back in the early 2000s.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I did Match Game from like 01 to 05. So.
Darn, before my time, I would have certainly went to every single one.
This was before you came out here.
Yeah, we almost did it here. If a couple of more guests had said yes, we would have done Match Game here. So.
And it's a fascinating game. So, and that's personally my favorite, just because there's so many fun little tropes you can put into it. But something like Scrabble is also important for me. For everyone who's really young, it's Words with Friends. But Scrabble is something I grew up on because that's how my mom taught me how to spell and understand vocabulary. And I noticed on your Twitter feed, you had made a comment about somebody had spelled D-I-K, and trying to explain it, and I had never heard the word before.
So do you accept Quijibo?
K-W-I-J-I-B-O, a big, dumb, balding North American ape with no chin. And a short temper!
So when you're getting these ideas for these games that you put together at conventions, what brings the inspiration outside of the old timey game shows from the 70s and 80s?
I like to solve problems. So like one of the problems that I see at conventions these days is the guest Q&As have really gone by the wayside. Most of them have turned into, how do I become a voice actor? Would you do this line for me and me alone, despite the fact I'm in a room with a whole bunch of people? So I created a game show concept that basically tries to fix the guest Q&A. So it's basically 3 guests, and then we do a fun little activity where they try to figure out which role I'm describing by giving general to more specific clues, And then once they figure out which one of them was that particular character, then I ask a follow-up question that's a Q&A style question that's related to that character for everyone, and then we just go on for like 3, 4, 5 minutes about something, and it's a question that they typically don't get asked anymore in unscripted Q&As. So, and it's been a pretty popular show. Of all the originals that I do, it's my most popular one, like online.
That
and
sounds
such.
fantastic.
So,
Just because it really gives the chance for all the fans to see it more humanized, where they're not trying to figure out how can I do exactly what
Yeah.
you do.
Yeah, I mean, I love the fans to death, but as they're getting younger and younger, the fans have not quite yet grasped the whole concept of is everyone and not just me kind of a situation. So, I mean, you know, they're young. And young people tend to be more selfish until they grow out of it, or don't grow out of it and become our president. But you know,
Touche, sir, touche.
As a teacher, I see that all the time where you'll be talking to one student and then someone else just walks up to you, starts talking to you, not even caring that you're in the middle of a conversation with another. And it's like, they're like, well, let me finish with him. Oh, you're talking to someone? Oh, okay.
and again, you know, it's something that's learned, and just the younger the conventions get, just the more sometimes people have to be told, you know, hey, you know, I'll get with you in a minute, you know, that sort of thing. So, and that's kind of what the guest Q&As have become. So that's why.
Oh, yeah.
And it's something that engages the fans. Each one chooses an actor, and they sit in a rooting section, and then whichever actor wins the game, we give a prize to a random member. So it's they're engaged.
Nice.
They're engaged because you know they're having they're watching good conversation between the voice actors, but then they're also engaged because they're hoping their actor wins. So
Exactly. There's this slight investment in it, which I think is very common in this day and age. You always need to feel an investment in what you do.
Or even some sort of competition as well.
Have you ever had a game where you put like a lot of work that you were really passionate about and it didn't work out in the end the way you had hoped?
Yeah, there have been a couple like that, and it's really just a matter of sometimes I see something like an old pilot for an old show that didn't get sold, and I'm like, well, I bet that would work at a convention. And then I try to put it together, and I present it at a convention, and it didn't work. So that's probably why it didn't get sold. And then occasionally I'll do one that the convention will schedule it so early, like on Friday, that no one comes because it's Friday and everyone's still getting to the con and such. And so, like, all right, well, I did all the prep work and no one's here, so I guess I have a show to do at the next one. So, but yeah, for the most part, I've had a lot more hits than I've had misses as far as that goes. So, I'm pretty happy with the lineup as it is right now. So, and we'll hope that Scrabble here in about an hour or so winds up being a hit. So.
Sounds good to me. So, I guess for just understanding, when you get a concept for what you want to do game-wise, how long does it take from conception to implementation? Does it take a couple of weeks, a couple of months, or?
It depends. Like if it's a game show that's a pastiche of an old show, then it's just simply a matter of recreating the set aspects, you know, tracking down the music and the sound effects and so on and so forth, and then putting it all together. But in the case of something that's a more original show, like Farkle is a good example. It's probably my Farkle was my first original, and it took about 4 months to go from concept to initial form, and then even after its initial form, it still got tweaked a bit to where it is now over the course of a couple of years of doing it. So I think that at this point it is as polished as it can possibly be. You know, every time you play the game, it's like, oh, you know, maybe next time I think about doing it this way, or so on and so forth.
Well, and I think that's great for anyone who wants to try something new, be it a game or be it anything. It's all about trial and error, and it's all about the dedication you put into it. And it's nice to see that, at least for us here at the convention and any other convention anyone goes to that you're at, they can see the fruits of your labor and how you've been able to mold something and really create a fun experience for everyone.
And I hope that, like last night we had a pretty good crowd for Pokemon, and it was one of our better shows. It actually ran a little short, so we actually got a chance to, in the last round or so, actually stretch out, you know, throw in a few more jokes and so on and so forth to keep everyone engaged, and even had some folk come in about 20 minutes from the end, and you know, by then you've only seen like the second half of the game, but they stuck around and enjoyed the interaction and such, and yeah, it was a good show.
Oh, awesome.
Now, as somebody who tours the country, do you notice in other regions certain games shows that you do are hits in some places and kind of misses in others?
It really more depends on the size of the show and the, like for example with the guest games, you know, who all are there. And as far as what are hits and misses, if I'm in a new area where people aren't familiar with me, that's when I'll try to do shows that are familiar because they're on television. You know, stuff like Jeopardy or not Family Feud. I only do celebrity style, but stuff like you know, match games on television now, so stuff like that. Anything that someone can look at a schedule and go, oh, I know what that is, and maybe they'll go and maybe they'll enjoy it, and then maybe they'll go to the other shows and then, you know, start to build things up. But, you know, it takes time, especially at shows that aren't really specifically anime shows. I mean, I've got a fairly decent following, you know, at least east of the Mississippi as far as anime conventions go. A lot of people know who I am because I do a lot of shows in that area. But new areas, it's just a matter of picking which ones I think will work. And then just making sure to hype them up, like at opening ceremonies and at each show. So the best thing is when someone comes to the first show and then I see them at all the rest of the shows. It's like, all right, I got that one. So
Excellent.
You seem like you have a lot of fun with these. Out of curiosity, have you ever done something related to like Kaiju, Godzilla with your games?
So I haven't. I could, but it's never been requested. It's just simply a matter of not knowing the source material enough to be confident of asking more than a question or two about it. I've asked Kaiju questions before on game shows. I've had categories before, but to do an entire themed game show around it, it would be the sort of thing where if it was asked for, I would do it, but then I would reach out to folks like you who actually know what the heck you're talking about it and go, hey, you know, what sort of questions and research and such do I need to do in order to make those happen? So, or, you know, point me to a resource. Like doing a Pokemon game show is easy because the Pokemon resources that are out there are so fine-tuned that 99.9% of what you find is correct.
Yes.
There are dedicated boards to just every single thing you do as somebody who plays the games.
Yeah, and that's the one nice thing about it. There are people out there that are great experts in Kaiju that have had books published, that have all this information on specifics, that you really can get a lot of information for stuff that happened with Toho Studios in the 60s and everything.
I guess, just because we're coming close to the end, one good question is, for any kids or anyone who's looking to try something new, what would you say is an inspiration to help them get the confidence to take that chance?
As far as attending
Attending or trying trying their own panel, or
Even putting together their own game show.
Well, what I would recommend is first go and observe and see, you know, the sorts of things. You know, just don't slap together just a PowerPoint presentation and expect that people are going to be really into you just reading off of a screen. You know, actually go to the panels. You know, watch what other people do. If something, you know, sparks a particular thing with you, then, you know, use your own creativity to, you know, come up with something that would be good. And then once you do come up with it, if you don't have a lot of experience in public speaking, practice. Grab your friends, grab your family members, put them in front of whatever you're doing, and do it in front of them until you're confident that you can do it in front of, you know, a crowd that you might get 3 people, you might get 300, depending on what your subject material is. And be ready to fail. I failed a lot, and still do, but be ready to fail before you succeed. And when you do fail, use it as a learning experience. And when you do succeed, don't get the big head, because as I've learned, I get you in lots of trouble. So.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, to quote Homer Simpson, failure is the first step towards trying.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Are there any social media links people can find you at?
I am on Facebook, Greggo's Game Shows, Twitter @Greggo Game Shows, 14 characters. I have an Instagram I hardly use, but it's also Greggo's Game Shows. And I've also started using the Unlocked app. I'm actually going to hopefully do a live game show on that later on today, which is just Greggo on Unlocked. So you can have that app.
Oh, fantastic.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure. Thank
you so much.
Until next time, bye.